What is going on, YouTube? So today I wanted to come back with my next NFL mock draft, my 3.0 version. So I said I was going to come back with a mock draft post-combine because really that's the last big event before the NFL draft comes around next month. So, of course, got the first round ready to go, and go ahead and start with the first overall pick. I will be posting the results I have for this draft in the description below, something that I've been meaning to do for all my recent mock drafts. But yeah, anyway, my first overall pick is, I believe, the first overall pick I've had in every draft, and that's the Tennessee Titans taking the offensive tackle out of Ole Miss, Laremy, Tunsil. So I still think the Titans might trade out of this spot. That's been been some of the bigger speculation recently. But this is a guy that I think they pretty much have to pick up. There's been talk about them also picking up a guy like Jalen Ramsey. But I think that Laremy Tunsil will shore up the offensive line to the point where they'll have a solid foundation built around Marcus Mariota. I do still think running back's a pressing need, but you're not going to take Ezekiel Elliott first overall. And I think with having a solid foundation built with, Marcus Mariota, DGB, and Laremy Tunsil, that's very solid core for the future on offense. So at number 2, I've got the Cleveland Browns taking the quarterback out of North Dakota State, Carson Wentz. The Cleveland Browns have made it pretty obvious that they do want Carson Wentz. I believe that he'll be the quarterback that goes to the Cleveland Browns, not Jared Goff. I still personally believe that Jared Goff is the best quarterback in this class and just one of the overall best players in this class. But I think Carson Wentz is overall the best fit for the Cleveland Browns. There have been comparisons to Andrew Luck, but there have also been people kind of de-emphasizing the talent of Carson Wentz. Like I said, I don't know if he's still the best player or the best quarterback in this class. It really varies by opinion. But I do still think he's the best fit for the Browns. So at number 3, I have the San Diego Chargers taking the safety/cornerback out of Florida State, Jalen Ramsey. So Jalen Ramsey had a very, very good combine, ran about a 4.4 flat 40, and I believe posted vertical in the upper 30 inches. He is one of the best athletes in this class. People have talked about him being the best player in this class overall, and I could agree with both. I think he's the clear-cut best corner in this class by now. I think he's outshined who I thought was the previous best corner, and that's Vernon Hargreaves. I still think that Hargreaves has the best flat-out football instincts just for a straight-up cornerback, but instincts and overall athleticism are two different things. And I think that Jalen Ramsey is a good fit for the Chargers. I think this is a team that really needs to shore up the secondary. The Chargers do have a lot of pressing needs on defense. Defensive line would be a good one too. Offensive tackle would also be another need. But I think that Jalen Ramsey being there on the board at 3, they have to scoop him up. So at number 4, I have the Dallas Cowboys selecting the defensive end out of Ohio State, Joey Bosa. So I think Joey Bosa's dropped. I think his draft stock's done nothing really but drop over the last couple of weeks. Some people are saying that he's not as talented as originally thought to be. But I think the Dallas Cowboys are a team that needs to go with either linebacker or defensive end. I think Myles Jack's another one that would be a good viable possibility here, but it's very redundant. I think that Joey Bosa is still the best fit here. I think he's still the best defensive end in the draft. So my number 5 pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking the cornerback out of Florida, Vernon Hargreaves. So I still think this is a very good match between team and player. Vernon Hargreaves gets to stay in the state he played college football in. The Jaguars get to build more around on that defense. That would be a very good long-term set of players to build around with Dante Fowler and Vernon Hargreaves. So at number 6, I have the Baltimore Ravens selecting the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, Ronnie Stanley. So if Ronnie Stanley actually does end up slipping to 6, I think the Ravens are going to go ahead and scoop him up. Really, the biggest need for the Ravens on offense is offensive tackle. I think that they can use an offensive tackle to help out the running game long term. Justin Forsett looks like the running back at least for the next couple of years for the Ravens. Obviously, they need to protect Joe Flacco a little bit better. Wide receiver is kind of a question, but I don't see them taking a guy like Laquon, Treadwell, maybe Michael Thomas this early in the draft. So at number 7, I had the San Francisco 49ers taking the quarterback out of Cal, Jared Goff. So I had this pick in my last mock draft. Actually, it might have been in my last 2. I can't remember back to the first one. But I think that Jared Goff is still the best quarterback in the class. Like I said, the Niners have made it pretty clear they're not going to hang on to Colin Kaepernick. I mean, they've been sending mixed signals about that, but I don't think they're going to. And with a guy like Jared Goff available at 7, again, gets to stay in California, I think it's a very good match. Excuse me. So, move on to number 8. I have the Miami Dolphins taking cornerback out of Clemson, Mackensie Alexander. So I think this pick's more out of need than anything else. Mackensie Alexander didn't work out in the combine, I don't believe. I think that might have hurt him a little bit, but the Dolphins still do need a corner really more than any other position. And, you know, if Hargreaves, or maybe if Jalen Ramsey slips to number 8, I don't think Ramsey would, though. I think whatever the best corner available at number 8 is, the Dolphins are going to go ahead and pick up. I mentioned this before. They need a corner, kind of take over for the aging Brent Grimes. So, at number 9, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking the defensive end out of Eastern Kentucky, Noah Spence. So in my last mock draft, I had them taking DeForest Buckner, and a lot of people said no to that pick. And I do still think that either one would be a good fit for the Bucs, but at this point, I really think Noah Spence would be the best fit by far. They need a guy that would be able to play that 3-4, be able to play the 4-3 technique at Tampa. And Noah Spence is a guy that really is shown to be the best defensive end, or at least to me, probably the second best defensive end in this draft. He had a good combine proving that the Senior Bowl wasn't a fluke, and he actually has that much talent. So, at number 10, I have the New York Giants taking the defensive end out of Oregon, and that's DeForest Buckner. So DeForest Buckner was shown to really be a physical freak. People knew that before the combine, but hand size measured up around, I believe it was like 10.5 or 11 inches, and I think he'll fit in well with the Giants' 3-4 technique, a defense that really needs to rebuild. And I think Buckner's a good guy to build around. Like I said, a physical freak, a guy that would be a good start at least. This is a defense that's losing some of their mainstays, including Prince Amukamara. And I think that there's a couple ways the Giants could go. There are a lot of ways they need to go, including running back, defensive line, cornerback, and linebacker. Like I said, another good option here with Big Miles Jack, but I think DeForest Buckner is the best fit. So at number 11, I had the Chicago Bears taking the linebacker out of Ohio State, and that's Darron Lee. So Darron Lee had a fantastic combine, ran a good 40 time, probably had the most impressive combine out of any linebacker. Now with Jalen Smith sliding down draft boards because of his knee injury will probably cause him to miss the entire year of 2016. That's been the report. I think someone's going to take his place, and it looks like that's going to be Darron Lee. And the Bears need a linebacker pretty much more than any other player in this draft. Darron Lee was a guy that ran an extremely fast 40 for a linebacker. He ran about a 4.45, maybe I think it was actually a little bit faster than that. And like I said, this is a Bears defense that's looked a little bit lost. I think this is a good guy to start with. So at number 12, I have the New Orleans Saints taking the wide receiver out of Ole Miss, and that's Laquon Treadwell. So there's a few options they could look towards at wide receiver, but they are kind of release. I think it looks like they're going to part ways with the guy who's been their franchise wide receiver about over the last 10 years, and that's Marcus Colston. So I think they got to find a new direction to go in. I think Laquon Treadwell is the clear-cut best wide receiver still in this draft, and I think that this would be a good spot for him. This would give Drew Brees a good guy to throw to over the next couple of years, and really a guy to build around on that offense for really like the next decade. Kind of become the new Marcus Colston of the team. And at number 13, I have the Philadelphia Eagles taking the offensive tackle out of Michigan State, Jack Conklin. So I would have them taking Paxton Lynch or really any quarterback if they had not just re-signed Sam Bradford yesterday. So I think that the next biggest pressing need for the Eagles is offensive line, and I think they could go either Jack Conklin or Taylor Decker here. I'm going to go with Jack Conklin. He's a little bit bigger, would probably fit in well a little bit more with the Eagles scheme. And like I said, there are a couple ways that the Eagles could go, wide receiver being one of them. If Laquon Treadwell does slip to them at 13, I think that would be another good pick as well. So at number 14, I have the Oakland Raiders taking the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, and that's Taylor Decker. So the Raiders could go a few ways: safety, cornerback, offensive line. I think is one of the biggest needs though. So if they're going to look corner, I think it'd have to be a little bit of a reach. They'd probably have to look the way of maybe William Jackson, had a big combine. Eli Apple, probably the next best. maybe Kendall Fuller, but those would be pretty big reaches. They could probably trade down for those guys. Taylor Decker's a guy that I don't think will slip out of the top, maybe the top 18. So if you want to look offensive line, I think that's a good place to swipe up Taylor Decker right at 14. So at number 15, I have the LA Rams taking the quarterback out of Memphis, and that's Paxton Lynch. So if Lynch does slip to 15 to the Rams, I think they're going to go ahead and swipe him up. This is a Rams team that no one really knows what direction they're going to go in for quarterback. There's talk of them maybe swiping up Peyton Manning if he continues to play, but that's a big unknown. Not really sure if they're going to go with Nick Foles or Case Keenum. Those would probably be the two best options for them right now. But if Paxton Lynch is there at 15, I think they have to go ahead and scoop him up, have a good athletic franchise quarterback to build around for the next couple of years. So at number 16, I have the Detroit Lions taking the linebacker out of UCLA, Miles Jack. So Miles Jack's a guy that I think is the top 10 player in this class, but I could easily see in the draft falling out like this, and he might slip a little bit just out of teams not really having a necessity for an inside linebacker. Jack can play a bunch of different positions. He played a little bit of linebacker, a little bit of safety, and a little bit of running back all in college. He was extremely athletic, and I think the Lions, one of their biggest, most pressing needs is definitely linebacker. This is a Lions team that, Jesus Christ, that's a little bit stuffed up. This is a Lions team that could look a multitude of ways, defensive line being one of them, wide receiver being another, running back being another. But I think they're going to end up going linebacker with the multitude of linebackers available at this point in the draft. So at number 17, I have the Atlanta Falcons taking the defensive end out of Clemson, and that is Shaq Lawson. So Lawson had a good combine, proved himself to be a solid first-round pick. Will probably end up going somewhere in the teens. Most mock drafts I've seen and most rankings I've seen all have him around the same spot. The Falcons do need another pass rusher, that's for sure. Add in another Clemson kid opposite Vic Beasley to be able to build around on that defense. So at number 18, I have the Indianapolis Colts selecting the guard out of Kansas State, and that's Cody Whitehair. So Cody Whitehair to me is the clear-cut best guard in the draft. The Colts probably have to look either offensive line or defensive end in the draft, maybe outside linebacker. And with Shaq Lawson gone, I think Cody Whitehair would be the next best look. Now, they could look a few other ways, I would say. Sheldon Rankins being one, maybe Jason Spriggs, Manuel Ogba, Kevin Dodd. Those are a few of the other options, but I think Cody Whitehair at this point in the draft would be the best look for them. So at number 19, I have the Buffalo Bills selecting the wide receiver out of Ohio State, Michael Thomas. So I think the Bills really do need a wide receiver just besides Sammy Watkins to add another threat on that offense. Whoever they go with next or long-term, probably Tyrod Taylor, a guy who actually looked pretty good this year. They need to add another threat to make that offense a little bit more explosive. And Michael Thomas is a guy that is a very good possession receiver. He will be able to go up and get most balls that you throw to him. Tyrod Taylor's not the most accurate quarterback in the world, so having a guy like that, especially that would add a little bit different skill set than Sammy Watkins has, would be a huge addition to that offense. So at number 20, I have the New York Jets selecting the linebacker out of Notre Dame. That's Jalen Smith. It's kind of hard to predict who the Jets are going to take in this draft. They could look a couple ways. I believe they just parted ways with Antonio Cromartie. Antonio Cromartie. So they could look corner. I think they could look safety. But I think with Jalen Smith available at this point in the draft, if he wasn't injured, would definitely be a top 5 player in this draft, at least to me. Even with him missing 2016, this is a guy that will be a very, very good long-term piece for whatever defense is able to snag him. And again, I think this is a good fit for the Jets if he's available at 20. So number 21, I have the Washington Redskins selecting the defensive tackle out of Louisville, and that's Sheldon Rankins. So Rankins has definitely been getting the comparison to Aaron Donald recently. And I think if he's available at 21 to a Redskins team that really, really needs an anchor on the defensive line that's good in pass rush, Sheldon Rankins is pretty much a must-have. So at number 22, I have the Houston Texans taking the running back out of Ohio State, Ezekiel Elliott. So Ezekiel Elliott definitely helped out his draft stock with the combine, proved himself to be worthy of a first-round pick, and the Texans definitely need a running back for long term. Arian Foster been dealing with injury troubles, has a high contract, and is getting up there in age a little bit. I believe he'll be entering his 7th or 8th year in the league. And like I said, they need to be looking in a new direction for running back. I think that quarterback is a pressing need, and they might trade up. But I think Christian Hackenberg, who I've had them taking in the first round in my last 2 mock drafts, is a guy that probably will be available there in the 2nd round. And if they are drafting in 22 with the 3 best quarterbacks gone, then Ezekiel Elliott to me is the best look that they can get. This is a team that is very, very good on defense already. Kind of has wide receivers set with DeAndre Hopkins. And like I said, quarterback and running back I think are the two most pressing needs for this team. So at number 23, I have the Minnesota Vikings selecting the offensive tackle out of Indiana, and that's Jason Spriggs. So Spriggs has helped himself out a lot through the Senior Bowl and the Combine. Showed good mobility, good snap in the hips, good speed, just overall good athleticism in, like I said, both the Combine and the Senior Bowl. The Minnesota Vikings need an offensive lineman, that's for sure. However many years that they have left with Adrian Peterson, also need a guy to protect Teddy Bridgewater a little bit more, their franchise quarterback. Now, there's been talked about that they need another wide receiver, that's for sure. I think Will Fuller would be a good look. Maybe Braxton Miller, Corey Coleman as well. Even Josh Doxson if they want to reach that far. But I think if there's an offensive tackle available like Jason Spriggs at 23, I think he is the clear-cut next best tackle available. After that, it's a little bit of a dip. Then they should go ahead and scoop him up. So at number 24, I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting the wide receiver out of Ohio State, and that is Braxton Miller. This has been a very popular pick in recent mock drafts. Braxton Miller, a guy that had a good combine, definitely had a good Senior Bowl, and would fit in extremely well in Cincinnati, obviously getting to stay in his home state where he played college ball, and getting to play for a team that is in deep need of a wide receiver right now opposite A.J. Green. They're losing Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu, their next 2 biggest receiving threats. So at number 25, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting the cornerback out of Ohio State, Eli Apple. So Eli Apple, I think, would be an extremely good fit here. The Steelers do very much need a cornerback to bolster up that defense. Eli Apple had a good combine, showed pretty good speed, and I think he is the next best corner available after the big 3 of Mackensie, Alexander, Jalen Ramsey, and Vernon Hargreaves. Kendall Fuller might be a good look also, but I think Eli Apple would be the obvious choice here. So at number 26, I have the Seattle Seahawks selecting the defensive tackle out of Alabama, and that's A'Shawn Robinson. So I think the Seahawks could look either Andrew Billings, Robert Nkemdiche, or A'Shawn Robinson here. All those guys to me are about equal. But to me, I think A'Shawn Robinson would be the best fit. So you go with Nkemdiche, obviously the upside would probably be the highest. I think he has the upside to be the best player in this draft, but the Randy Gregory comparisons are a little bit scary to whatever team drafts him. And I think A'Shawn Robinson would maybe be the safest pick here. Andrew Billings, I would say is boom or bust, but the potential is definitely there, but so is the bust potential. I'd say it's small boom or bust. But anyway, I think A'Shawn Robinson makes the most sense, and I think the Seahawks do definitely need an anchor on the defensive line now. So in number 27, I have the Green Bay Packers selecting the linebacker out of Alabama, and that's Reggie Ragland. So I think the Packers could look a couple ways here. Excuse me. Tight end being one of them. I had Hunter Henry in the last one. But if Reggie Ragland's available at 27 for maybe the Packers' most pressing need at inside linebacker, I think they have to go ahead and pull the trigger. If Jalen Smith slips down too, I think that would be another good look for them. So number 28, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting the defensive end out of Oklahoma State, Emmanuel Ogbah. So Ogbah had a very good combine, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs' most pressing need is pass rush. Kevin Dodd might be another good look. Leonard Floyd has been a name mentioned as well, but I think Ogbah would be the overall best player to select here. Jesus Christ. So number 29, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting the safety out of Southern Utah, Miles Killebrew. So this is probably my most out there pick, probably my biggest reach. Killebrew to me is one of the best sleepers in the draft. He was actually in my top 10 biggest sleepers for the 2016 NFL draft video. And I think that one of the Cardinals' most pressing needs, maybe outside of edge rusher, is safety. They need someone to play opposite Tyrann Mathieu, and Killebrew has been very, very good in the Senior Bowl and the Combine. I believe he ran a sub 4.5 40, and is really just an athletic freak. With Darian Thompson having a subpar combine, to say the least, actually had a very bad combine. I think that the safety spot is wide open for the number 1 slot. I think Jeremy Cash could take that spot. I think that Von Bell could take that spot, but I also think Miles Killebrew can take that spot as well. I think the teams are going to look for this type of guy, maybe late first round, as I think one safety will be taken, and I think Killebrew could be that guy. So, in number 30, I have the Carolina Panthers selecting an offensive end out of Clemson, and that is Kevin Dodd. So, the Panthers are going to need another... I think they're going to need another defensive end opposite Coney Ely. So, Kevin Dodd to me is that guy. He had a good year at Clemson. Don't know if he'll still be there at that point. If he is, though, I think the Panthers just be common sense for them to scoop him up. Defensive end, to me, is the most pressing need for the Panthers. So, number 31, and last pick in the first round, I have the Denver Broncos selecting the offensive tackle out of Texas A&M, and that's Germain Ifedi. So, there's a couple ways the Broncos could look here if they want to go offensive line. I think Joshua Garnett would be another way to look here. But if the Broncos are going to go offensive line, then I think Germain Ifedi had a very good combine, helped his stock out quite a bit. And it gets a little, like I said, it gets a little bit thin after Jason Spriggs. Then I think Ifedi would be the next best look here. I think another good look for the Broncos would definitely be running back. I've mentioned this before. C.J. Anderson might be the long-term answer, but it's been pretty inconsistent. And maybe Derrick Henry might be a look there as well. But, yeah, that concludes... Sorry about that. That concludes my 2016 NFL Mock Draft 3.0 post-NFL Combine. Try to make this video a little bit more brief. What about 21 minutes right now? Approaching 22. Like I said, I will be posting the entire results of my entire list of the draft in the description below. Probably will also put the links to my last two NFL mock drafts in the outro. I will also be putting the link to my entire NFL Draft 2016 playlist in the description below. That includes all my NFL Draft big boards for every single position, including my top 100 players. It was about a month ago. It was post-Senior Bowl, not post-Combine. But it does include a lot of players that you might not think about that might be drafted in later rounds. So, like I said, that's pretty much it. Might do another mock draft right before the NFL draft. But for now, this is definitely going to be the last one for a little while. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, the final video in the big board series. I've done all the rankings. If you want to see the rest of the list of the rankings, check the playlist in the description below. So, just a couple things I wanted to mention before I start this. There's a couple guys that weren't in my original rankings that would probably be in my top 100 that I wasn't sure. I thought they were going to